Online survey has found that 96% of people believe that load shedding will cause long-term damage to the economy, leaving many people in a worse financial state. The study was conducted by the South African Depression and Anxiety Group. For more on this, we are now joined by Sadag's Development Manager, Fatima Seedat. Fatima, good to have you. Thank you very much for your time. First and foremost, I mean, you conducted this online survey. It's called Your Life During Load Shedding. Why did you feel the need to do this?
You know, we intuitively know that load shedding has huge impacts on people and your livelihoods and your day-to-day functionality, but we didn't know specific details. And what we thought was we needed to do the research, a survey, just to find out more about how exactly does load shedding affect your mental health and well-being, because in that way, us at Sadag can understand better what people are going through, and then we are able to tailor our services because there's so much need for mental health, yet there's a scarcity of services. So Sadag tries to fill in the gap, and in order to do that, the survey helped us understand what people are going through with their mental well-being, and how then we can take all this information, put it together, and then come up with a tailor-made, tailor-made interventions and help people cope better with the anxiety and stresses that they go through when it comes to load shedding.
The general assumption is it's an inconvenience for 2, 3 hours, 4 hours, some instances for 6 hours, but thereafter the electricity comes back and your life kind of runs and goes back to normal. Is that the experience, for example, for somebody who suffers from anxiety?
It is. From the survey, we learned that people that have experienced anxiety or are experiencing anxiety feel highly anxious when there's no continuity with the actual schedule. So your anxiety levels increase when your electricity doesn't come back on time, or when it doesn't go on time, which is very odd, but it's true. We also noticed that, I think, according to the survey, we've picked up that almost 60% and above have been feeling high levels of anxiety, and that's related to a whole lot of other things, with delay doing your work, delay with your day-to-day activities. People are feeling the stress.
Yeah. So you are saying the process or the event of load shedding to someone who is already suffering anxiety becomes linked to other processes. What kind of processes are those?
Thabo, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use one of the respondents' response when it came in the actual study, and what this person mentioned was, as a mental health patient, it's so critical to go through your day-to-day you build your day-to-day on an infrastructure. And with load shedding, what it does, it disrupts that. So you don't have your daily routine put into place. So it's almost like a dysregulation to your day-to-day activities. And you're actually struggling as a mental health patient because you're not eating on time, your sleep patterns are changing, your work patterns are changing. There's so much of disruptive patterns to your day-to-day activities, and that's what's causing a lot more anxiety. And in most cases, a lot of people also share that they are feeling highly depressed, more now than ever, because you sort of cut off from the world. Your load shedding also impacts your network connectivity. It also impacts the way you live with your family. Families tend to go about on their own when load shedding hits. When it comes to no network, you feel isolated. So who do you reach out to? Who do you speak to? So there's a lot that people are going through. And especially for mental health patients, it takes a lot out of them to go through these day-to-day activities.
So how does this helplessness impact one on social activities of individuals, but also on economic activities? I mean, you're saying people's stress levels, for example, are heightened. What does that do to their productivity, and therefore how does it affect their economic situation?
So with a lot of people, because it's an interruption to your day, they are feeling as if, a lot of people come, there was one of the respondents that actually shared a story, and they said, I tried to put together a routine so I could come back home, do my household chores, and then go and try and have some rest time. And with load shedding, what's happened is it's affected them in a way where you come home, you have to rush, so that increases your anxiety levels, your stress levels, to make sure that your food and everything is done before and thereafter. There's no time for anything else. So it's almost like there's a disconnect somewhere. You can't interact with your family members because of load shedding, or you can't do something that's maybe you use your internet or anything of that sort to sort of de-stress from the day, and you're not able to do that. So there's this heightened anxiety throughout just to get by with what you need to do, and by then it's, day over for you.
Yeah, and in terms of how then this is interpreted by those who are going through the process of anxiety, are they interpreting the load shedding as something that is going to be permanent, is not going to go away, or are they anticipating that it will it will be fixed and things will get better soon?
South African community is very resilient. So we sort of learn ways to work around everything. And again, from the responses we are getting, that we got from the survey, people are trying to find ways to navigate through the process. So when we looked at people that were sharing what do they do during their load shedding time, and people mentioned we go and have a nap at that time, maybe because you're trying to navigate through being unable to work. So what you do is you sleep in between, wake up and continue to work. There are some people that would use that time to actually read a book, which is therapeutic in a way as well. So as much as there is huge disruptions, people are trying to cope. But at the same time, they do not want to normalize that, because it's not a normal thing to go through. So what people are doing, yes, we did ask the question about how many people have inverters, how many people have generators, or whatever else, those systems in place to actually navigate through load shedding. But there's a lot of them that responded and said, I don't want to normalize this. So what I'm going to do is I'm not buying a generator, I'm not buying an inverter, but I'm going to use this time to do something constructive or to do something helpful for myself.
Now, if, by some miracle, Eskom would actually listen to us and take considerations of mental health as they make these decisions around load shedding, what would Sadag suggest to them they need to do as far as navigating? Of course, we know there's very little chance of the power being available at the degree that we want it right now. So load shedding will be with us at least for the next 18 months. What would you suggest Eskom does, at least to allay the anxiety and to have people have some degree of certainty and consistency?
Tabo, that's a very tough question, especially from my side, because we focused a lot on mental health, mental well-being. And the one thing I think we could suggest is consistency when it comes to schedules. Because what we've picked up is a lot of people feel highly anxious when there's no consistency. So if we could, sort of minimize that gap, or try and work in a way that people know what's going on, because knowing is important to a lot of people in comparison to the unknown. And that's what creates fear. That's what creates high levels of anxiety and stress.
Yes.
So I think the most important thing is following a schedule, but also trying to sort of, stick to something that's more consistent. Like initially when they suggested the stage 3, and now we're going into different stages, it created anxiety. And I mean, people just need to know, and I think that would help people with high levels of anxiety.
Yeah. What we saw at Sadag during particularly the COVID-19 times, and there were lockdowns, and you'd conducted similar types of surveys to see how people's mental health is being affected by this situation, is then you came up with particular interventions and the use of technology to be able to allow people, for example, to access some of the relief and access some of the assistance that they can get from you. What are you going to do with this particular survey?
So with the survey, the main idea was just to get an insight and see what exactly are the main challenges and how we could then put together coping strategies to help people deal with different situations. Currently what we are doing is we have put together a list of coping strategies. So, for example, encouraging people to use the time of load shedding to do something else, which is also sort of an off-screen timing. So because also being on screen all the time does affect you, we've suggested that you could do some off-screen work, like doing your household chores, taking a walk, doing your daily exercise, doing some gardening, which is very therapeutic. So we've done the coping skills. We've also put together a few breathing techniques to help you with your anxiety when you are feeling extremely anxious, and a lot of helpful tools. So Sadag would be putting up that coping strategies onto our website, onto our social media platforms to make it available to everyone. So hopefully that would also help them. But at the same time, we always encourage people, if you are feeling overwhelmed, Sadag is there 24/7. Reach out to us. We are available to help you.
Direct us once again to those online platforms. What are they?
So our Sadag website would be the best place to get all the information. That is www.sadag.org. We are putting everything on the front page, so it's easily accessible as well. And then, of course, our toll-free number is 0800 567 567, which is open 24 hours a day, every single day of the year.
Fatima Seedat, appreciate your time. Thank you very much for coming on tonight.